What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Primetime Sports Podcast with Joey Mailari. Tonight, I'm going to break down what happened in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals and the NHL playoffs, and we'll give my predictions for the Stanley Cup Finals, which will be in a couple days. Wednesday night will be the first game in Colorado. After that, I'll move on to the MLB and discuss some of the biggest headlines within news around the game of baseball, including the Angels' 14-game losing streak, which they end up snapping against the Red Sox, the Yankees' continual success, and then we'll also get into Joe Maddon getting fired. Following that, I will touch on the Red Sox' recent 10-game road trip and update you guys on some injuries within the Red Sox pitching staff. At the end, I will recap the Celtics-Warriors Game 4 showdown at the TD Garden from a few nights ago and provide a ton of stats for some of the key players on each team and how they performed so far in the series. So to start off, NHL playoffs, tough break for my pick of the Oilers over the Avalanche. I guess some of my predictions on this show the last few times I've given some predictions haven't gone too well. I said Angels, Dodgers, World Series prediction. Might have been my first episode. And the Angels ended up losing 14 games straight after I said that. And then Joe Maddon gets fired as well. Originally, for my radio show BC, I had Red Sox Phillies before opening day. And Joe Girardi was just fired last week. So maybe I relaxed on the hot takes for a few. But considering how well the Red Sox have been playing recently, and also the Phillies are 9-0. We're 9-0, since firing Joe Girardi. They ended up losing, but won 9 straight games after firing him and reached 500 for the first time since April 30th, when at that time, on April 30th, they were only 11-11, reaching 500 after that long of the season. And just getting back and getting your feet, back on the ground and steady is honestly impressive. So you never know. I guess Red Sox Phillies still an opportunity there, but it's a long season, obviously. I think the favorites right now, everyone's going to go Red Sox. Excuse me, not Red Sox. Yankees, Mets. It would be really cool to have Subway Series, World Series. But anyways, maybe I should relax on the hot takes for a few. I did have the Oilers over the Avalanche at 6 games. That didn't work out. The Avalanche were just too much for the Oilers to handle. It just seemed like the Oilers didn't care as much after the Calgary series. It seemed like, it was like one of those, at least we beat Calgary already, so it's kind of like winning the Stanley Cup, in our eyes, and we feel like we already accomplished enough. So just didn't seem like they had the effort and didn't care as much. But two guys you can't blame, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they came up just short of making the Stanley Cup Finals, obviously, but they played their absolute hearts out. 2 historic seasons came to an end, but what a run for them. It was the first time the Oilers reached the Western Conference Finals since 2006. First time the Oilers won a playoff series since 2017. McDavid, 10 goals, 23 assists, 33 playoff points in 16 games. Draisaitl, 16 games in the playoffs, 7 goals, 25 assists, 32 points. For McDavid, he had the 3rd most points in a single season since 1995-1996, which I saw as a Sportsnet statistic on Instagram. The second, I believe, if I remember, Jaromir Jagr had the second most with 172 points in 1995-1996 season. And then Mario Lemieux had 188 points in the 1995-1996 season. But McDavid, 156 points, 3rd most points in a single season in NHL history, so very impressive for him. And then Leon Draisaitl finished with the 3rd most 3-point games in a single postseason in NHL history, 7 games. Gretzky was first with 9 in the 1985 playoffs. Gretzky was second with 8 3-point games in the 1988 playoffs, and then 4th with 7 games, 7 3-point games in the 1993 playoffs. So it just shows how dominant of a player Wayne Gretzky was. But Draisaitl and McDavid had such great years. It came down at the end of the day. The Avalanche were just too much to handle. Orioles goalie Mike Smith did give up 19 goals in the 4-game sweep against the Avalanche, but he did face 149 shots in 4 games, 130 saves, and 149 opportunities. Had an 87.2 save percentage, so not too good, especially to beat a team like the Avalanche. You kind of have to slow them down. Their offense is going to score 4, 5, 6 goals a game if you let them. So if you only give up 2, 3 goals a game, it makes it a lot easier. But if you're giving up 6 goals and losing 8-6 in game 1, that's just not an easy thing to come back from. Anyways, but very historic season, though, for the Oilers, just being able to get to the Western Conference Finals again. Obviously, next year, we'll see how that works out. But I'm happy they got back on track. Evander Kane led the Oilers in the postseason with 13 goals. McDavid, as I said, 33 playoff points in 16 games. Draisaitl, 32 points in the playoffs. So they had two great playoff runs there. Kyle McCarr had the most points in the series with 9 points, 2 goals, 7 assists. Mikko Rantanen had 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points. And then Avalanche star center, who definitely will play a big role for them in the Stanley Cup Finals, is Nathan MacKinnon. He had 3 goals and 2 assists in the 4 games versus the Oilers. It just seemed like the Oilers didn't have enough juice. That Calgary series beating them, it just seemed like after that they already kind of felt like, we already did enough type of thing. And just didn't seem like they were trying as hard. I'm sure obviously they were trying, so I'm not doubting their effort and how much they obviously cared and how much they put into trying to win. But they just didn't have that juice or that poise they had in that Calgary series. Anyways, for the Rangers and Lightning series, the Rangers beat both the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Carolina Hurricanes after being down 3-2 in both series. So then in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Rangers found themselves down 3-2 once again, this time to the Tampa Bay Lightning. After they were up 2-0 in the series, actually, the Rangers, won the first 2 games, started out very hot, ended up losing 3 straight to the Lightning, had a chance once again being down 3-2 to maybe see if they could work their 3-2 magic and try to win 2 straight to punch a ticket to the Stanley Cup Finals. But this time just fell short. One thing with the Rangers was just their offense. They only scored 1 non-power play goal in the last 4 games of the series. They had a 2-0 series lead, blew it, obviously losing 4 straight to Tampa Bay. And only scored 5 goals in that 4-game stretch, the last 4 games of the series. And only one of them was not from a power play. And you're just not going to win any games, whether it's the Stanley Cup playoffs, whether it's a regular season game, whether it's, any game, preseason, college hockey, anything. You're not going to win any games if only 1 goal in 4 straight games, only 1 goal of your goals you scored in 4 games is not from a power play. You have to be able to score not on power plays, and the Rangers were just too reliant on the power play in the series, which, it worked the first few games, but in the last 4 games, only having 1 goal that wasn't a power play, that was just too much for them to overcome. They obviously couldn't score goals 5-on-5, and that's definitely a big issue. Rangers goalie Igor Shesterkin was strong in net, saved 195 of 209 shots faced, had a 93.3 save percentage in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Rangers didn't have enough juice after Game 2. Mika Zibanejad and Adam Fox and Temi Panarin and Chris Kreider and Frank Vetrano, they all, had decent series, 5 points apiece in 6 games, so just under a point a game. I highlighted, I think, every one of them in my NHL playoff special, but they fell just short. It's definitely tough, though. I think when New York teams are better, whether it's the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry is always better when the Yankees are better, but when the Yankees are better, the Giants are better, the Jets, the Mets, the Knicks, anytime a New York team's better, I just feel like sports, the Islanders as well, but anytime New York teams are better, I just feel like sports in general are better. So I was kind of rooting for the Rangers to try to force a Game 7, make things interesting, but they just fell short. As for the Lightning, Andrei Palat and Nikita Kucherov led the Lightning in points with 8 points in the 6 games of the series. Steven Stamkos added 6 goals. He's still a scoring machine. Also had 2 assists for 7 total points. Then Andrei Vasilevsky had a 91.9% save percentage in the series. In the 4 games, in the last 4 games, the 4 games the Lightning won, he saved 106 of 111 shots faced, which is a 95.5% save percentage, which is elite. So the Lightning reached the Stanley Cup Finals for the 3rd straight year. After the first round of the playoffs, my prediction was, I believe, the Lightning over the Oilers in 6. This time, once again, I'll stay with the Lightning. This time, obviously, it's Colorado. I'll take them in 7 over Colorado. So the first game of the Stanley Cup Finals is Wednesday at Colorado, 8 o'clock. It's puck drop. In the games they played this season, they played 2 games. The Avalanche won both of those regular season matchups. On October 23rd of 2021, the Avalanche won 4-3 over the Lightning in a shootout at Tampa Bay. And then February 10th, 2022, they faced off yet again, and the Avalanche won 3-2 at Colorado this time. So we'll see how this series works out. Avalanche goalie Darcy Kemper missed the last 4 games. Colorado backup Pavel Francouz stepped up in Kemper's absence and played very well. Francouz played in Game 1 after Kemper exited with an injury that started the next 3 games, was 4-0, with a 90.8 save percentage, had a shutout, stopping 99 of 109 shots faced. So did well enough for them to win, especially stepping up as a backup. It's not easy to come into a situation, especially in the Western Conference Finals, in Game 1 and have to come in the starting goalie's absence when he gets hurt. So he played very well. My prediction, though, I'm going to say Lightning in 7. This is the first time the Avalanche are in the Stanley Cup Finals since 2001, when they won and they beat the Devils in 7 games. Historically, they got 2 Stanley Cup championships, 2-1 in the Stanley Cup Finals. And now this is the 3rd straight year the Lightning have made the Stanley Cup Finals, which I've talked about a couple of times now. 3 championships in the franchise history, 3-1 in the Stanley Cup Finals. I think the Lightning win this in 7. I'm not really sure how it'll go. I think both teams probably win their home games, and then we'll see where it goes from there. I don't think it'll be a Celtics series where it's 1-1, 1-1, 1-1. I feel like both teams, go 2-0 at home, and then, we'll see what happens in Game 5. But I'll definitely keep you guys updated with that, give more updated predictions as the series goes along. Now moving on to the MLB. The biggest storylines over the last week have been the Yankees continuing to mash the ball at the plate and pitching very well. The Angels firing Joe Maddon after a 12-game losing streak. It ended up getting to 14 games before they actually won. And then the Phillies going on a run after firing Joe Girardi. So a lot of things going on in the MLB. To start off, the Angels were 0-9 in one-run games over the 14-game losing streak, which you just can't have worse luck than that. That's pure bad luck. There's nothing you can do about it at the end of the day. And then add on Mike Trout getting hurt. He only missed a couple games, but the luck of him getting hurt just was not in their favor at all. They had no luck. And I feel bad for Joe Maddon, I'll say that. After the Angels lost the 12th game in a row, Joe Maddon got his hair cut and got a mohawk just to try to change the luck and see if I could spark the team and maybe get them a win. He was fired actually before he could show them. That report came out today. So I feel bad for him. I actually don't think he was the biggest issue. I don't think it was his fault. Especially considering the fact that over that 12-game streak, Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, both are struggling heavily. I saw this on a stat from MLB Tonight on MLB Network. Over that 12-game stretch of losses, Ohtani was 180 with only 4 extra base hits and a 718 OPS. He had a 9 ERA on the mound in 2 starts, 9 innings pitched, 14 hits allowed, and had a 359 batting average allowed to opposing batters, which just is not Shohei. Especially the Shohei we saw against the Red Sox. He was elite, which I'm going to get into in a second. Then Mike Trout was hitting 114 with only 2 extra base hits and a 409 OPS. And that's actually the most surprising thing, a 409 OPS, especially considering how good Mike Trout is. He's always in the 800s and 900s. But the 0 for 26 streak that he had is the reason his OPS was so low over that stretch. And then Brandon Marsh, who has been decent for the Angels this year. I'm not going to put all the blame on him. I think he's hitting around 250 on the year. Was only hitting 154 in that 12-game span with 1 extra base hit and a 355 OPS. So your 2 best players in Trout and Ohtani were struggling heavily. So I don't think Joe Maddon was to blame. I know Ohtani said he feels really bad for Maddon and wanted to thank him for everything he did. And he feels like the players at the end of the day are partly at fault for his firing, which, I'm not going to blame the players, but I don't think it was Joe Maddon's fault either when, no one on the team was really producing, especially, the 2 best players in baseball, 2 best players in a team, the 2 best hitters, and I think the 2 best players in all of Major League Baseball went ice cold over that 12-game stretch before Maddon was fired and before Phil Nevin took over. So I'm not going to blame Joe Maddon, but the Angels ended up getting back on track. And they played, what night did they beat the Red Sox? I believe it was last Thursday night. The Angels snapped their losing skid with superstar and 2021 MVP Shohei Ohtani on the mound. He had a superb game at the dish and on the mound, both. He was 2 for 4 at the plate, had a 2-run home run to give the Angels a 2-1 lead in the 5th inning. It was 104.4 miles per hour off the bat. And then he threw a 101 mile per hour pitch to strike out Rafael Devers in the same game. It's just nuts. You could throw 101 and also hit a home run with a 104 mile per hour exit velocity. But Ohtani continues to surprise you every single game you watch. It just shows how unique and how rare a talent like Shohei Ohtani is. And I think he's the most marketable player in baseball just because how much attention he's brought to the game of baseball over the past year. If you're going to talk baseball, which I know ESPN doesn't talk about it too much, if you're going to talk about it 50% of the time, 60% of the time, it's about Ohtani. So he's definitely something you can market and get people to get more involved with the game and interested. Anyways, on the mound, he went 7 innings, gave up 1 run, 4 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, got the win as well. I think he improved to 4-4 in the season, so now at 500. Tough luck, though, for the Angels, as I said. Right before Joe Maddon could show the team his mohawk, he was fired. So didn't work out there for him. I think maybe they pulled the plug too quick, just because I don't think it was his fault necessarily if everyone on the team was struggling. But it is what it is at the end of the day. On Saturday, the Angels got Mike Trout fully back healthy after missing a few games against the Mets. And Trout and Ohtani did not disappoint one bit. An 11-6 win in L.A. at Anaheim. Trout was 3 of 4 with 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored, 2 home runs, and a double. Ohtani was 3 of 4 as well. 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored, just like Trout. 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored, 3 for 4. Ohtani had a walk, hit a home run, and a double as well. So they were combined 6 of 8 with 6 RBIs, 6 runs scored, 3 home runs, 2 doubles, and a single. As I said, the 2 best players in baseball, in my opinion. It's very exciting being able to watch games, seeing them always hit after each other. It's just something different every single time you're watching. Every time you watch an Angels game, there's something that one of them does. You're just like, wow, these guys are unreal. So I'm always interested in watching them play. Jared Walsh in that game hit for the cycle, the 8th Angel to accomplish that feat. He was 4 for 5, 3 RBIs, and a run scored. So congratulations to him on a great game. So the Angels did lose 14 straight. Now have won 2 of their last 4 games. On May 24th, my prediction was Dodgers-Angels, my first episode. I said Dodgers-Angels in the World Series. And I thought it could happen. I mean, who knows? It still could. But I was rooting for it to happen just because I love Ohtani and Trout. I do like the Dodgers, too, because I like Mookie. But after I said that on May 24th, the Angels lost the next 14 games straight. They played and they had a 27-17 record, I believe, off the top of my head, when I made that prediction. And that Hail Mary prediction just put them into a 10-game, which turned into a 12-game, which turned into a 14-game skid. So they lost 14 straight games, ended up being, after being 27-17 when I said that, 27-31 before they actually beat the Red Sox and got a win and got back on track. But when I did make that prediction, they had the 8th best record in baseball. We're on track to returning to the playoffs for the first time since 2014. And then obviously things just went downhill over that 14-game stretch. But we're only a third way through the season, 1/3 of the way. So most teams have played just about 60 games now. So about a third of the way through the season. So little over a third. But with them being, 27-17 when I said that, now being, obviously losing 14 straight games, not an easy prediction. But I'll say this, it's a long season. Anything can happen. When you have the 2 best players in baseball, especially when they play to their abilities, if the Angels are on their A game and if they're pitching, like Noah Syndergaard and Shohei Ohtani, stay pitching well and playing well, I'm sure teams won't want to face them in the playoffs so they can sneak in. So at least they, ended up winning a game. I know the Orioles in 2019, I believe it was August of 2021, not 2019. They've had a lot of bad losing streaks, the Orioles, but in August of 2021, they lost 19 straight games. So at least the Angels didn't get to that degree. 14 games, obviously not good. I'm not saying it's great, but if you, lost more than 19 straight, it's losing, 2/3 of a month almost. So 14 games, about half a month. But definitely tough. Losing 19 straight, would be like losing 2/3 of a full month, like the Orioles did, but losing 14 is just about half a month. So they recovered well, though, won 2 of their last 4 games for the Angels, so we'll see how they continue to roll. Hopefully Trout and Ohtani stay hot. Anyway, speaking of hot, moving on now to the Yankees. The New York Yankees have been elite this entire season. The success really starts with their pitching, for sure, but I think their health is most important, especially when you have Aaron Judge, who's always hurt. He's hit 23 home runs in his last 45 games. In that stretch, the Yankees are 35-10. Judge is hitting 318 on the year with 24 home runs in 58 games. And at this point, honestly, he could beat, I think he will beat, his 52 home run mark of 2017 when he won Rookie of the Year. And I think he finished second in MVP voting that year. But in that season, had 52 home runs in 155 games. As long as he stays healthy, which we know is a struggle, obviously, for guys like him, Giancarlo Stanton, they're always on the IL, always hurt. If he were to stay healthy, I think he could beat that 52 mark, especially since he already has 24 and 58 games. In his last 25 games, Judge is hitting 347 with a 1.173 OPS. He's hit 12 home runs over that stretch with 21 RBIs and 24 runs scored. So he's stayed hot. Over the last 25 games, he's been elite. He stayed hot the whole season. He's having a great year. The Yankees in general, they're 44-16, the best record in baseball. In second, with the second best record in baseball, are the New York Mets with a 40-22 record so far in the season. So 40-22 for the Mets, 44-16 for the Yankees. So New York baseball is at its height. It's at its peak right now. And the Yankees have at least 7 more wins than any team in baseball besides the Mets. They only got 4 more than the Mets, but they have at least 7 more wins than any team in baseball besides the Mets, which is just absolutely nuts. It just shows how dominant they've been this season. They just blew out the Cubs yesterday, 18-4. They swept the Cubs, actually, the weekend series. The Cubs have struggled heavily this year, so it's not like they were beating, the Dodgers and sweeping them heavily. But 1 year removed after starting a complete rebuild with trading Javi Baez and Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo, this Cubs team is just absolutely depleted. The Yankees outscored them 28-5 this weekend, and now the Yankees are 11-1 in their last 12 games. So they've stayed great. I don't even know how to describe how well they've been playing, because I honestly think when they were hitting so well, beginning of the season, April, May, I thought maybe this team will tail off. A lot of guys in that lineup that like to strike out, Judge, Stanton, Donaldson, Rizzo, they all strike out a ton. So I thought maybe these guys will cool off, but they've all stayed hot. I know Rizzo's hitting just about 210. He has 15 home runs of the year. And then they picked up longtime St. Louis Cardinals infielder Matt Carpenter, who has struggled over the last few seasons in St. Louis, hitting just 203 in his last 3 seasons with the Cardinals. But in 10 games of the Yankees, something's completely flipped. Carpenter's hitting 333, 8-24 at the plate with 6 home runs, 13 RBIs. In 309 games, his last 309 games, through last 3 seasons with the Cardinals, he had 910 plate appearances and hit only 7 home runs in his last 180 games as a Cardinal. He had only 21 RBIs in 130 games in 2021. Now, with the Yankees, he has 13 RBIs in 10 games. After I just said he only had 21 in all of 2021. He has 6 home runs and 24 at-bats in 10 games with the Yankees, and he only had 7 home runs in his last 180 games. 180 games as a Cardinal. His last 180 games, he only had 7 home runs, and he already has 6 with the Yankees in just 10 games, which is absolutely nuts. In his last 3 seasons, he only had 22 home runs with the Cardinals and 910 plate appearances, and he already has 6 with the Yankees in his first 24 at-bats, which is just absolutely nuts. Just shows how hot he's been. The Yankees offense in general has just been top tier all year long. Number 1 in runs scored, 307 runs. Number 1 in home runs, the MLB, with 98. They have the best team OPS in baseball with an OPS of 769. So it's not just a few guys that are hitting well. Everyone in the Yankees lineup, I know some guys have lower batting averages, but they have a ton of power in that lineup. 98 home runs is just nuts. Especially considering since some teams only have 40 or 50. The Yankees have double that, almost at 100. So the Yankees starting pitching is another thing I want to talk about. They've been elite all year. 2.85 ERA as a team. They have 4 starters with an ERA under 3, which is just absolutely insane. The only Yankees starting pitcher with an ERA over 3 is the one making $36 million per year, and that's Garrett Cole with a 3.63 ERA. So as I said, the Yankees are the best ERA in baseball. 2.85 as a team. The best whip in baseball. Walks, hits per innings pitched. 106. So it just shows that elite starting pitching really starts with issuing less walks. The Yankees pitching staff has only issued 144 walks in 542 and a third innings this year, which is also the best in baseball. So I've always said pitching is the most important part of a team, most important part of a winning team in baseball. And this Yankees team, the whole starting rotation has just been great. And as I said, only 144 base on balls issued for this Yankees pitching staff in 542 in the third inning. So that's just elite, especially considering since a lot of these guys in their lineup, a lot of these guys in their rotation, haven't had elite control their whole career. Jayson Taillon, 7-1 on the year with a 2.93 ERA. He's had 52 strikeouts to 7 walks and 67.2 innings pitched. Garrett Cole, 5-1 with a 3.63 ERA. As I said, the worst ERA in the Yankees starting rotation. He only has 17 walks, though, so not too bad in 67 innings pitched, 84 strikeouts in 67 innings. So he's obviously their big K guy, getting a lot of strikeouts. Jordan Montgomery has been really good this year, 2.7 ERA, 55 hits allowed in 66.2 innings pitched, 10 walks to 51 strikeouts in 66 innings, 66 and 2/3 innings. Nestor Cortez been probably the best pitcher, I'd say, on the Yankees rotation this year, not just because his ERA is low, but just watching him wise. I think he's the most comfortable out there and has been playing really well. 5-2 with a 1.96 ERA, 71 strikeouts to 14 walks and 64.1 innings pitched. And then Luis Severino, my favorite player on the Yankees, one of my favorite pitchers in all of baseball. I'm a huge fan of him. So happy to have him come back and play so well. I'm a Red Sox fan, obviously, but I'm a big Severino guy, so I'm happy to see him come back and play so well after 2 straight injury-plagued seasons. Happy to see him come back and play so well. He's 4-1 with a 2.8 ERA, 71 strikeouts to 15 walks and 61 innings pitched. So he's back. He's playing really well, 2.8 ERA, which is third best in the starting rotation. It goes Cortez, Montgomery, Severino, Taillon, and then Garrett Cole. So we'll continue to talk about the Yankees, I'm sure, all season long with how well they've been playing and how well they've been pitching and hitting. An exciting team to watch right now. So the Red Sox, moving on to the Red Sox, they just finished up their 10-game West Coast trip with an 8-2 record. They got a spark over the weekend from Rob Refsnyder, who made a highlight reel play of the month type of catch in right field yesterday in the Red Sox 2-0 win over the Mariners. Fully extended, backhanded diving play, left his feet, made a spectacular catch. It was a 2-0 game too, so any guy getting on base could be an issue, especially considering how bad the Red Sox bullpen has played at times this year. But he made a huge play, got the Red Sox a big out, ended up contributing heavily to the win. In 5 games this year, he's a .467 OBP on base percentage. He's gotten on base 7 times in 15 plate appearances, which is really good. He gets on base in different ways every single game. He's got hit in both games he played in versus Seattle, which doesn't happen too often. Getting hit 2 straight days. He's hit by a pitch in the 8th inning yesterday. Ended up scoring on the next at bat when Rafael Devers hit his 14th home run of the season. The only run scored actually came off that at bat from Devers yesterday. Gave the Red Sox a 2-0 lead, which they ended up winning 2-0. And then the next at bat after that, actually after Devers hit that home run, J.D. Martinez was drilled in the hand next at bat. So it's 2 guys getting hit in 3 at bats. Refsnyder, then obviously Devers hits the home run, and then J.D. gets hit. And Devers was also actually hit by a pitch on Sunday as well. He hit a home run in Saturday's game that the Mariners were not a fan of, and that actually led to J.D. getting the pitch high and tight on Saturday after Devers hit that home run and admired and walked kind of up the first baseline a little bit. He stood in the batter's box for a second, looked at it, and then took a couple steps up the first baseline and then started running. But that next at bat on Saturday, J.D. got a pitch high and tight. And then on Sunday, Refsnyder got hit yet again after getting hit on Saturday. And then J.D. got hit yesterday on Sunday after Saturday being thrown at high and tight. So I guess the tension came to be a problem between the Red Sox and the Mariners. But no one ever really knew that. It wasn't like they were playing, beginning of the year or something, and there was a scuffle and each team wants to get back at each other. I'm not really too sure what happened there, but they won't meet again this year anyways unless it were to be in the playoffs, so I guess we won't have to worry too much about that. Bobby Dahlbeck hit 2 home runs in the 3-game series versus Seattle. He actually grew up in Seattle and had all his family and friends at the game, so I'm sure it was a cool, exciting weekend for him and his family. Gave the Red Sox a huge 6-5 lead with the solo home run in the top of the ninth on Saturday with 2 outs. And then the Red Sox actually ended up blowing it anyways in the ninth inning. Hanser Robles came in and gave it up, gave up a walk-off. Jackie Bradley gave a tremendous effort on a ball that was a line drive in center field. Fully extended, trying to make a play to prevent the walk-off of the Mariners, but fell just short of it. Did give it everything he can. He gave it his all, fully lunged and launched his body trying to make a play and just came up short. So the Red Sox on the road trip outscored opponents 42-24. Took 3 of 4 against the Angels, swept the A's, and took 2 of 3 against Seattle. So not a bad road trip. The Red Sox will now face the A's at home for a 3-game series starting tomorrow. And some news within the Red Sox. Pitching staff, Chris Sale hit 96 miles per hour in a simulated batting practice today in Fort Myers, according to Chris Cotillo of MassLive.com. My buddy Chris does great work. Nate Eovaldi hit the 15-day IL with low back inflammation a couple days ago. Cutter Crawford actually was stellar in his absence on the mound yesterday, going 5 innings, a strong 5 innings, I should say, allowing 1 hit, striking out 7, walking 4 batters, and allowing 0 runs. The Sox actually only allowed 1 hit to the Mariners yesterday. The bullpen was elite. Yesterday, 4 innings pitched for the bullpen, 0 runs, 0 hits, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. In credit to Ryan Brazier, Austin Davis, Tyler Danish, John Schreiber, and Tanner Houck. Tanner Houck actually picked up his 2nd save of the year yesterday. They all pitched very well. And now the Red Sox will be without Garrett Whitlock for a little bit. He was placed in the 15-day injured list as well with right hip inflammation. I guess it's not too much to worry about. Alex Cora said if it were to be September, he would be pitching right now, according to Chris Smith of MassLive.com. So maybe it isn't too serious. I hope it isn't, especially considering since Whitlock, once Chris Sale were to come back and James Paxton were to come back, I would hope Chris Sale and Paxton would be healthy enough to be in the starting rotation, so Whitlock could go back to the bullpen to be the closer. We'll see how that goes, obviously. Chris Sale hit 96 is huge news for the Red Sox, especially since his fastball last year was really only at 88 to 90 to 91 to 92. He never really got to 96 last year. In the short part of the season he played. But get to 96, that's great. Then also losing Nate Eovaldi to the 15-day IL. Losing Nate obviously isn't something the Red Sox wanted to do, but I guess giving him some time off to rest, since he's had a lot of elbow injuries in the past, which he hasn't, luckily, knock on wood, the last 2 to 3 seasons has been relatively healthy with his arm. But he's had some injuries over the past few years. He's been getting a ton of innings pitched. Had a complete game a few weeks ago for the Red Sox. So I guess giving him a little bit of time off to rest his arm, especially since the Red Sox are playing well right now. Cutter Crawford, as I said, stepped up well in his absence. I guess giving Nate a little bit of time off while the Red Sox are hot hitting-wise, especially since we're only playing the A's this week. It's like we're playing, the Dodgers in the World Series or something. I think Nate would be playing right now, and same thing with Whitlock if it were to be a bigger game. So I guess giving some time off, some rest, especially since we're on a 10-game road trip, guys really needed it. That's what Alex Cora did, actually. He rested Devers one night, Story one night, JD one night, Verdugo another night, giving guys nights off just to try to keep them fresh for bigger games, especially since when you play 10 straight games, guys are going to get burned out. Anyways, Kike Hernandez, the next guy I want to talk about, was placed on the 10-day IL with a right hip flexor strain, which allowed actually Rob Refsnyder to get some opportunities, and he's been playing well, so I guess you can't really complain there. And then the last thing I want to talk about, Jonathan Arauz was designated for assignment by the Red Sox. Not too sure what's going on there, if he was picked up or not, but if he were not to be, he'll just be placed back in Worcester on the Worcester Red Sox, the Woo Sox, and we'll see where he goes from there. Anyways, now moving on to the biggest part of my podcast here. The Celtics Game 4 matchup versus the Warriors was one that was tough for the Celtics, but if you're a basketball fan watching, you could just be mesmerized by how great Steph Curry was. He was truly unreal. He was on his grind like Jimmy Butler in the 2020 playoffs. Steph played 132 playoff games in his career and had the 3rd most points in a single playoff game on that game in Game 4 with 43 points, 14 of 26 shooting from the floor, 7 of 14 from 3, had 10 rebounds and 4 assists to go along with that. He was just truly sensational in that game. And if you're a basketball fan, obviously it's going to be something you're excited to watch. As a Celtics fan, not so much. Being able to watch Steph, drill threes in your team is never going to be fun. But I'll say this: if you're a Celtics fan, it's not great. If you're a fan just of the game of basketball, of sports in general, watching Steph Curry is truly sensational. It's just absolutely nuts. And I think he's honestly made a case to be MVP, even if the Warriors weren't to win this series. Let's say the Warriors were not to win this series, which it doesn't really happen often where a guy that loses ends up winning Finals MVP. But he's averaging 34.3 points per game, 6.3 per rebounds with 3.8 assists a game in the Finals to go along with 2 steals. He's shooting 50% from the field, 49% from 3. He's playing 37 minutes a game as well. Imagine we played a full extra quarter like Jimmy Butler did, and a good amount of that final series in 2020 against the Lakers when the Heat matched up with them. But Steph's just been unreal on a different level. 34.3 points, so clutch. I mean, in Game 4, just so effortless. Some of his threes in the biggest moments of the game. Then you look at the Celtics, and you got guys like Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown that don't want to shoot, which I'm going to get into in a second. But don't want to take the big shots and let Marcus Smart and Al Horford take the biggest shots of the game. If you're 2 superstars, which I see them as both stars, I don't see them as both superstars. I know Celtics fans, a lot of Celtics fans see them as superstars. No superstar wants to pass the ball away in the biggest moment of the game. If you're a superstar, you're not going to do that. I'm the best player on this team if you are, whoever it were to be. Let's say Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, either one. Which I think Jaylen Brown's better than Tatum. I've always thought that. I always thought Tatum was more of a selfish player, and I always thought Jaylen Brown was more of someone you want to build a team around. But then again, that's just my opinion. I know not every Celtics fan is going to agree with me on that, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, Steph Curry was just effortless, and he wants the ball in the biggest moments. But then you look at the Celtics, as I said, Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum just fall apart a lot of the time in crunch time, which I think Jaylen Brown's a lot better clutchness-wise than Tatum is. But I'll get into that in a few. Anyways, the Celtics losing Game 4, though, was absolutely brutal. It's such a big difference, in a best-of-7 series. 2-2 or 3-1 is such a big difference. And being up 2-1 gives you the chance to essentially put the series away to a certain extent. You can put a nail in the coffin, at least, of the Golden State Warriors if you were to win at home and make it 3-1. The Celtics had the chance to do that at home. Had the chance to do that at home and have a 3-1 lead, but obviously came up short. The second half was really tough for the Celtics. Celtics were outscored 58-43 in the second half. In the fourth quarter, the Celtics shot 7 of 21 from the floor and only scored 6 points in the final 7 minutes and 32 seconds of the game, which is just abysmal. Jayson Tatum had another rough shooting night once again. 4-15 in 2-point range shots inside the arc and finished with 23 points. In the fourth quarter, he had 3 assists. The fourth quarter of the NBA Finals is where you are supposed to be your best. You have to be the best level, the best player you are in the fourth quarter of the NBA Finals, because that's crunch time. That's when everything's on the line. Your chance of winning a ring, everything is on the line. Everything you worked for in your entire life, everything is on the line in that moment. So the fourth quarter is really where you need to come up big. Jayson Tatum shot 1 of 6 from the floor in the fourth quarter, 0 of 5 in his last 5 shots, had 3 assists, a turnover, 2 rebounds, and only 3 points. Only 3 points in the fourth quarter Jayson Tatum had. You can't tell me he's a superstar. I don't see it. As I said before, you can't be a top 5 or top 10 player in the NBA. I think he's just outside of that. You can't be a top 10 player in the NBA if you fade away in the biggest moments on a nightly basis. In the biggest moments, Jayson Tatum disappears and finds the worst time to go cold. In the fourth quarter, which, as I said, the worst time to go cold is the fourth quarter in the NBA Finals, he's averaging 2.8 points per game to go along with 25% shooting from the floor. And that is just absolutely unacceptable and ridiculous. He has to be better. He has to be better. He finished Game 4, 8 of 23 from the floor, 34.8% field goal percentage with 11 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, 3 blocks, and 6 turnovers. 6 turnovers, that's another thing. I mean, he was going into the game averaging 4 turnovers a game. 6 turnovers in the playoffs. 4 turnovers a game in the playoffs is what he was averaging. But 6 turnovers, You need to be better than that, especially in the NBA Finals. I mean, even a regular season game, 6 turnovers is awful. But people come at Russell Westbrook for his turnovers. I'm going to get into Russ actually a little bit at the end of this episode. But people come at Russell Westbrook for his turnovers. And they'll, show every single turnover he has on Twitter and Instagram and every single big shot he misses. Why isn't that the same for guys like Jayson Tatum? When he has 6 turnovers and is shooting 1 of 6 from the floor in the fourth quarter and 8 of 23, why aren't people showing his bricks on social media? I don't get that. It's a different standard. As I said, I'm a Celtics fan. I'm just giving you my honest opinion from a sports perspective, how I feel about it. Anyways, Tatum shooting just 27.4% from 2-point range in the first 4 games of the series, 34.1% field goal percentage in general, with 3.5 turnovers a game, which is just absolutely awful. You need to be better than that. Marcus Smart shooting 44% from the floor in the NBA Finals, and Tatum shooting 34%. So Marcus Smart's shooting 10% better than Jayson Tatum is, and Marcus Smart's, a guy you don't want to be taking the biggest shots, on the Celtics team on a nightly basis. And he seems to be always the guy that is taking the big shot. It's because Tatum and Brown, which I'm going to get to in a second, always pass up the big shot. Not always. I would say Brown will take them. But Tatum passes it up just about all the time. And in the other times, he's trying to dribble for 3.5 weeks and dribbles it off his knee, and it, goes out of bounds like it did against the Heat in 2020. But we'll get into that in a second. Anyways, Jayson Tatum is the 3rd worst field goal percentage on the Celtics, only trailing Nick Stauskas and Sam Hauser for the worst, and neither one of those guys really have played any quality minutes. So I guess out of the guys that play, Jayson Tatum is the worst field goal percentage on the Celtics, and that's your superstar. It's a guy that's supposed to be better. And Colin Cowherd, I think, had a brilliant segment today on The Herd about Jayson Tatum, and he said in this series there's only one superstar, and obviously that's Steph Curry. And he said the last 4 games show you that what the difference is in the NBA between a star and a superstar. In the NBA, there are a ton of stars. There aren't as many superstars, guys that everybody knows whether you like sports or you don't like sports in general. And he said Jayson Tatum is a star. He's not a superstar yet. Who knows? I mean, if he has a big Game 5, Game 6, and Game 7, these criticisms go away. But I know a lot of the time, if you continue to struggle, these things are just going to continue to follow you. If he has a bad Game 5, people are going to be talking about it after Game 5, after Game 6. A year from now, if the Celtics were to lose, Jayson Tatum was brutal that time in the finals. But he said Tatum's not a superstar, because you can't depend on him in clutch moments. And Colin Cowherd pointed out that the Celtics have the 3rd worst clutch rating in the NBA. And that has a lot to do with Tatum, because he takes a lot of the biggest shots. Not always, but him and Brown, it's a lot to do with those two. Take a lot of the big shots. And Jayson Tatum fading away and disappearing the biggest moments is just not what you could have for a player, especially of that caliber. And Colin Cowherd used the word shrink, saying that Jayson Tatum shrinks in the biggest moments and is not dependable. And I use the word disappear. It fades away in the biggest moments. So he has to be better. I don't even mean to put him on blast right now. But if the Celtics want to win, and if he wants the Celtics to win, he has to play better. And there's no other way to say it. Whether you're a Celtics fan or you're not, I think everybody knows Jayson Tatum has to play better, and his play has been truly unacceptable. Today on the radio, I heard 98.5, they said that Jayson Tatum, oh no, it wasn't 98.5, it was, 95 was talking about how Draymond Green actually has more fouls in the NBA Finals, 18 fouls, and he has points scored, 17 through 4 games, which I'll talk about Draymond in a second. But Colin Cowherd pointed out that Steph Curry has a higher field goal percentage right now in the NBA Finals he has a higher points per game average in the NBA Finals, 34.1%, than Jayson Tatum has field goal percentage, which is just absolutely nuts. Let's see what Steph's shooting from the floor here. Steph has 34.3 points per game, is what he's averaging. 34.3 points per game. Jayson Tatum's shooting 34.1% from the floor. That is nuts. And he's right. There is a huge difference between being a star and a superstar, and I think Tatum is a star, and I don't see him as a superstar, at least right now, especially with the way he's been playing. Anyways, Jaylen Brown finished Game 4, 9 of 19 from the floor, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal to go along with 21 points. In the fourth quarter, Jaylen faded away also. I mean, he did have 6 points off 3 of 7 shooting, but had 2 turnovers, and he's just so careless with the ball sometimes. 2 turnovers, 3 rebounds, 0 of 3 from 3, which the Celtics love depending on the 3. I know the NBA today, it's all about threes. and flopping to try to get free throws. That's the game in the NBA today. And the Celtics just are so careless with the ball and love to shoot threes. And whenever they're cold from three, they're not going to win many games. So Jaylen Brown went 0 of 3 in the fourth quarter, 3 of 7 in the fourth with 6 points. And a key moment was 2:45 left in the game. The Celtics were down 3. Jaylen Brown gives the ball to Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart, of course, misses the 3. Then after the Celtics get the offensive board, Jayson Tatum gets it, kicks it out to Marcus Smart yet again, because why would Marcus Smart not take another big shot for the Celtics, because he just about takes every single one of them, it seems like. And of course he misses it. And the Celtics' 2 best players passing up the potential biggest shot of the game is not what you want out of your 2 stars. That's unacceptable. It's like March Madness, where teams are down 1 point, 2 points, and they keep passing it because no guy wants to take the big shot. And if you're a star on a team, especially in the NBA Finals, and you don't want to take the big shot to try to write your legacy in the NBA Finals, I hit the big shot, when Ray Allen hit that huge 3, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. But when Ray Allen hit that huge 3 in the 2013 Finals against the Spurs, that's something you could talk about forever. I hit a 3, with 5-6 seconds left with my team down 3-2 in the series to tie the game, to send it to OT for us to win. I mean, that's just a memorable moment, something people talk about for forever. So if the Celtics stars and Tatum and Brown don't want to take the big shot to try to, make their names something etched in the history of the NBA Finals, that's just not something you want. So then, with 1 minute 54 seconds left, the Celtics were down 3. And Jaylen Brown drives, kicks it out to Horford, who misses the 3. Yet again, another example of Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown passing up the big shot. And then, fast forward, Celtics are down 6 with 1:35 to go. Tatum drives, kicks it out to Horford. Yet again, as I've said now 3 or 4 times. Horford did hit the 3 this time, but Tatum disappeared in crunch time yet again. Just doesn't want to take the big shot. He decides to play every other night, it seems like. He hasn't had a good finals game yet in the NBA Finals in any of the 4. He's not a top 5 player in the game, in my opinion. I think he's outside of the top 10 as well. I mean, how can you disappear in the biggest moments the majority of the time and be a top 5 or top 10 player in the NBA? That's when you write yourself in as a top 5 or top 10 player in the NBA, when you have that clutchness factor. And I just don't see him having that in these last 4 games. And say what you want about guys like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, but they want the ball. I mean, I've seen people to point out, LeBron missing that 3, which I just mentioned in against the Spurs in Game 6 of the 2013 NBA Finals, when the Spurs were up 3-2 in the series. And Bosh gets that rebound after LeBron missed the 3, and gets kicked out to Ray Allen. Ray Allen hits a huge 3. It's much different letting Ray Allen, the best 3-point shooter of all time at that moment. Now, most people probably have it second or third, but wherever you put Reggie Miller and Steph, I think most people can have first, but Reggie and Ray probably second or third in most people's eyes. Letting Ray Allen, the best 3-point shooter of all time, at that moment take, the game-winning 3, or the game-tying 3, I should say, is much different than letting, your fate in the NBA Finals depend on the hands of Marcus Smart and Al Horford shooting a 3. Much different. And Marcus Smart, actually, in the fourth quarter of Game 4, was 1 of 3 from 3, 1 of 4 from the floor with 4 points. So he had more points in the fourth quarter than Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum only had 3 points in the fourth quarter, which is just absolutely awful, especially considering since it was a close game, the Celtics need points out of Tatum in the fourth, need more points out of Jaylen Brown as well. It's awful to see how poor they played then. But Marcus Smart, 1 of 3 from 3, as I said, in the fourth, 1 of 4 from the floor to go along with 4 points. He actually had a free throw to go along with those stats. Moving on, Draymond Green, as I said, may not have had the best NBA Finals so far. 17 points to go along with 18 fouls in the first 4 games, and he did not have a good offensive game by any means in Game 4. But he had 2 of the biggest plays of the game: an assist to Kevon Looney for a layup to give Golden State a 5-point lead to go with 1:02 left to go. After a huge offensive rebound off a Klay Thompson missed 3, getting that assist to Looney after getting that rebound is just absolutely huge. And had Draymond Green not rebounded that, the Celtics would have been down 3 points with a minute to go with the ball, which is just a much different game. And the Warriors had 5 assists in the fourth quarter. Draymond had 3 of them. Draymond Green had 3 assists in the fourth quarter, so he's great facilitator, playmaking big out there, which I know he's not contributing scoring-wise, but, an assist is just as good as a basket. So 3 assists in the fourth is huge for him. He also assisted Steph Curry for a big 3 with a minute 42 to go to give Golden State a 6-point lead, 194. So Draymond didn't play too poor. I know it doesn't show up in the points column, but he did 3 fourth quarter rebounds. And still record his podcast, so he knew he would. Add that to his box score. He finished 1 of 7 from the field, 2 points, 9 rebounds, 4 offensive boards though, which is huge. Him getting offensive boards definitely makes a difference. 8 assists, 4 steals, and only 3 fouls, which is something to highlight since he fouled out in games 1 and game 3. Next Warriors player I want to talk about, Andrew Wiggins, had the most underrated performance of the whole entire Warriors team. His 5th career playoff double-double, only the 2nd time he has made the playoffs. The only other time he's made the playoffs was in 2017-2018 season with the Minnesota Timberwolves. So he doesn't have much playoff experience, but 5 career playoff double-doubles now. And at one of the most important games of his career in Game 4 of the NBA Finals, 17 points, 16 rebounds, 7 of 17 from the floor with 2 assists, a steal. And had a huge layup with 4:55 to go to cut the Warriors' deficit to 2 points. He had 4 points in the fourth quarter, actually. He had a career-high 16 rebounds. His previous career high was 11. So Andrew Wiggins showing up in the big moment of the NBA Finals completely writes away all the, he's a star, he's a good player, but did he warrant that number 1 pick? He's, he's not this and he's not that. Him having this big of a game in the NBA Finals, that completely writes off everything he's done in the past and how he's potentially underperformed in some people's eyes. I mean, 16 rebounds in the NBA Finals is not easy to do by any means. And he did it in, the biggest game probably of his career, getting Golden State to tie the series 2-2 rather than be trailing 3-1. So I think he had the most important game just with those 16 rebounds. I know Steph obviously had more points, but 16 rebounds was huge. A big reason the Warriors won that game. Next, Kevon Looney came off the bench for the Warriors actually in Game 4. Had the best plus-minus of the game, though. Plus 21 rating, 6 points to go along with 11 boards. So he had a really good game. I want to highlight now the Celtics in the fourth quarter. Shot 4 of 13 from 3. As I said, they love relying on three-pointers. Only scored 19 points in the fourth quarter. The Warriors closed the game on a 17-3 run. And the Warriors shot 10 of 20 from the floor in the fourth quarter. So when the Celtics are shooting 4 of 13 from 3 and only had 19 points, and the Warriors are 10 of 20 in the fourth, you're not going to win many games like that. That margin is just too much to catch up on, especially when you're getting outscored 17-3 on a run. You're just not going to have any luck. Robert Williams, the most significant Celtics player, which I highlighted on my last episode, only had 2 assists, no points, and no rebounds in the fourth quarter. Checked out, actually, with 3:41 to go in the game. He did still finish with the best plus-minus on the Celtics team with a +6 rating. He was 3 of 3 from the floor, 7 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, staying with 2 blocks in the game. So definitely contributed on the boards in the defensive end with the 2 blocks and a steal. But I wish he had a couple points in the fourth quarter, since it would have been huge having some points in the paint, especially considering the Celtics relied so much on the 3. Drive, kick it out, drive, dish it to Rob, so you can go up, make a play, get a rebound, something. So I just saw a report he would be active tonight and playing no more minutes in tonight's game. So that'll be huge for the Celtics. Anyways, the Celtics actually led this game for 27 minutes and 31 seconds, only trailed for 14 minutes and 30 seconds. But at the end of the day, the Celtics, in that Heat series at one point won, I think it was in the first 3 or 4 games, won every quarter but 2 of them and was still trailing. I think it was the first 3 games. We're trailing 2-1 in the series, even though they won every quarter but 2. 2 really bad quarters contributed to the Celtics being down 2-1 in that Miami Heat series. And it's kind of similar here. The Celtics led just about this entire game, more than half of it, 27-31 of 48 minutes. But ended up still losing because, in those 14 minutes and 30 seconds that they trailed, they just dig themselves holes by relying on the 3. Tatum and Brown turning the ball over, Jayson Tatum having 6 turnovers. Those are just things that are unacceptable, and you need to play better in the fourth quarter. That's when games everything's on the line. That's when you need to be your best, is the fourth quarter. And that's just where the Celtics have actually struggled. The third quarter, actually, mostly. But the third quarter, you need to be better in, especially considering since you had halftime to game plan, get rested, you have to come out better in the fourth. The Celtics actually were out-rebounded in Game 4, 55-42, and only shot 73% from the free throw line as a team, 14-19. They need to be better at the line, need to be better on the boards. 55-42 being out-rebounded is not like the Celtics, considering how well they rebound in the first few games of the series. But they need to be better. And another thing is shooting free throws. I mean, you get to the line because you're driving down the lane trying to get a call, and you're missing free throws. You need to be better. Anyways, Tony Brothers, I saw, is officiating tonight's game. The Celtics 7-15 when he refs in the playoffs, and the Warriors are 12-8. They should beat the Celtics in Game 2 when he refereed. So we'll see how that plays a role. Then Josh Tiven is also reffing. The Celtics are actually 2-6 with him reffing. The Warriors are 7-1. He also did Game 2 as well when the Warriors won. So we'll see how it goes. I think the next two games, tonight at Golden State and then Thursday at Boston, I think both teams will split. If I had to guess, I'll say the Warriors win tonight, Celtics win Game 6, and then who knows what happens in Game 7. I'm not going to make a prediction there yet. But I think the Warriors win tonight, Celtics win Thursday, Game 6, and we'll see where it goes from there. But obviously rooting for the Celtics. It'd be huge to be up 3-2 and have a chance to win Game 6 at home and have the NBA Finals championship trophy being hoisted in Boston. That'd be great. But as I said, I think they split these next two games. I think it goes to 7. But thank you guys so much. That's the closing of this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time. The next day or two, I'm going to upload another episode, hopefully, to talk about Bruce Cassidy of the Bruins fired. Give you guys an update on how the college baseball NCAA bracket has gone and the 8 teams that have reached the Omaha College World Series. So I'll be back on the next day or two. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good one. Take it easy and stay safe and well. Thank you.